Welcome! I'm Vivian from the ArcGIS Maps SDK team. In this video, I'll show you how to execute an SQL query to return features from a feature layer using ArcGIS Maps SDK for Swift. SQL stands for Structured Query Language, which can be used to access and manage data. To create the application, I'm using the project and code solution from the Display a Map tutorial as a starting point. The solution displays a basic map and sets an initial viewpoint. The complete tutorial instructions and solution are available in the description below. To execute an SQL query, I need an access token that has privileges to use the basemap styles service. In this example, I can just use the same API key from the Display a Map tutorial, so I don't need to create a new key. I'm ready to head over to the Content View Swift file to start coding. In this example, I'll be querying data from a hosted feature service that contains data of the Los Angeles County parcels. A feature service stores and provides access to spatial and non-spatial data. A feature service can contain a feature table and a feature layer. A feature table is a data structure representing feature data retrieved from a feature service. A feature layer is a spatially enabled table in a feature service consisting of features that share the same geometry type and the same fields. To execute a query, I'll need the URL to the feature service, the feature table created with the URL, and the feature layer created with the feature table. Lastly, I need to add the feature layer to the map's operational layers. This feature service is shared publicly, but platform developers can only share services privately and must scope the API key to the feature layer item. Next, I create a private extension for the content view struct. In the extension, I create a class named model that is an observable object. I also need a state object reference to the model class in the content view struct. To learn more about managing GeoView states, check out the programming patterns page linked in the description below. Lastly, I move the map variable into the model class and adjust the variable instances accordingly. Where clauses will be used to query the feature layer. A where clause is an attribute expression that defines features to be included in the query. To make them easier to access, I create an enum that contains a set of predefined where clauses in the content view extension. The where clause enum is case iterable and equitable. Then, I create a switch statement with each where clause as a case option. The where clauses must be string literals without errors in order to perform the query correctly. I'm copying and pasting the where clauses to ensure accuracy. Next, in the content view struct, I create an envelope variable to keep track of the current extent which will be needed to query the visible area. To update the extent when the visible area is changed, I add the onVisibleAreaChanged task modifier to the map view. When the visible area has changed, assign GeoView extent to the new visible area's extent. Now that I have defined the where clauses and I can access the current extent, I am ready to create a new method that will be used to query the feature layer. This method will be called after the user has selected a where clause to be applied to the query. The method accepts a where clause and an envelope as parameters. First, I'll clear previous selections on the feature layer before executing a new query. Then, I need to make query parameters. I set the parameters where clause to the selected where clause expression. Likewise, I set the parameters geometry to the extent. Now that I have configured the parameters, I can query the feature table using the parameters. Once I obtain the features from the result, I select the features on the feature layer. To allow the user to select a where clause that queries the dataset, some UI is required. In the content view struct, I create a where clause variable with the state property wrapper. The variable has a default value, but will contain the where clause selected by the user. To the map view, I add a toolbar and toolbar item group with bottom bar placement. Within the toolbar item group, I add a picker which will display the options and allow the user to pick a where clause. I configure the picker with the title, set the selection to the selected where clause, and populate the picker with all the possible where clauses. Lastly, I add a task modifier that calls the previously created function when selected where clause has a new value. I pass in the selected where clause and the current extent. Now I'm ready to run the app and query a feature layer. Here's my app with the feature layer displayed and the toolbar at the bottom. I can pan and zoom on the map to change the extent and tap to select a new where clause to customize the query. Notice how the selected features are limited to the extent of which we executed the query. Thanks for joining me. The full tutorial is linked in the description below. To learn more about building mapping apps with Swift and ArcGIS, please visit the ArcGIS Maps SDK for Swift documentation. Thanks for watching.